Oi, howdy, hi! Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by to join me today. I really do appreciate it. My name is Ellie and I'm a witch, and today I'm going to be bringing you Bookmas Day 3, where we talk about All My Boyfriends Are Monsters. Bookmas Day 3, I'm so excited. So this is the first romance book that I have for this series. It is All My Boyfriends Are Monsters by Kimberly Lemming. This was actually published September 23rd of this year as well. This one's super short, 52 pages, and is available through Kindle Unlimited for those who are interested. Let's jump right in with a synopsis. Tossing a coin in a mysterious well seems like a harmless way to cope with being ditched on a mountain, until every impossibly hot man in town starts competing for one woman's attention in this steamy short story by USA Today best-selling author Kimberly Lemming. Lucy Sawyer's wish for true love lands her in an enchanted town where the men are supernatural, the chemistry is off the charts, and everyone wants to date her. But they say that things that seem too good to be true usually are, and soon Lucy may need to decide if she's willing to pay the cost of her happily ever after. Unfortunately, this one doesn't have a spot on my bingo board, so boo that. Per usual, this will be a chapter-by-chapter breakdown with full spoilers. Also, to my family who is watching, I really do appreciate the support. I love you guys very much. Please stop watching this video. Okay, thank you. Chapter 1, The One Who Waits. So we meet Lucy, who almost dies, like right off the jump, which is actually what our narrator is advocating for, since he will get to reap the rewards of her blood and body. Lucy does not die. She manages to correct her balance and she just ends up on her ass on the mountain that they're hiking. She is on a camping trip with her boyfriend and his friends. Now his friend Stephanie has the hots for him very clearly, and he just pretends that that isn't what it is. Stephanie is making fun of her after she almost dies. And the narrator is kind of just like silently egging Lucy on to do literally anything in retaliation. Lucy, though, actually had cut herself when she fell, and that blood then falls onto the ground, which allows our narrator to have a taste, and he's immediately obsessed, wanting more. The thing that he likes the most about it is he's specifically loving the emotions that he can pull out of that taste. Now, Lucy's boyfriend basically tells her that they're going on without her and to just make her way up when she can. Lucy does end up sitting by the side of the trail and she calls her friend Jess to kind of just let her know what happened, and Jess also agrees that Lucy should just head home. Before she leaves, though, Lucy finds an old well and tosses a coin down it, wishing for love, a real love. The narrator just wants to do anything to keep her there, anything to make her call his name, even though he doesn't even remember his own name, but he ends the chapter by calling her his priestess. Chapter 2, Lucy. So a fog ends up blowing in, and Lucy decides that going down the mountain is pretty dangerous, so she turns back and she's like, I'll just go to the campsite and I'll suck it up for the duration of the trip. Well, until she encounters a feathery friend. A raven flew past my head and landed on the path in front of me. The creature turned around to stare at me menacingly. I was not particularly superstitious, but a raven standing in the middle of the trail staring a bitch down did not seem like the best omen. Can I help you? Caw, I don't know what to do with that information. Something growled on the path behind the bird. You know what? Down is good too. Good looking out, bird. With an about face, I rushed in the other direction. Down is great, actually. Honestly, my first choice. She starts to go back down, but there's a section that is really steep, and she is absolutely terrified. She was terrified when they came up, so she's even more terrified to go down. So again, she starts to turn back. However, she's able to get but a few steps before the entire mountain rumbles, and there's a torrent of rocks that rain down. It does actually open up the path a little bit more, but unfortunately she is injured. At this point, she swears off all men because, it is this mediocre man's fault that she's there in the first place. Then she sees a man, a very gorgeous man this time, come through the fog. He asks if she's okay. She has clearly sprained her ankle to some degree, and he insists on helping her get to the clinic in town to kind of just check out her ankle. She tries to decline it, saying that, she's too heavy to be carried and that she'll just figure it out herself. Well, until she literally cannot stand on the ankle, and so the man picks her up with ease, I might add. He introduces himself as Noah, and he sets her up on his trusty steed, Clyde. He is apparently an alpaca farmer, so she was lucky that he happened to be nearby. He takes her into town, which is a place called Dusk Petal. When they ride in, they happen to run into another very stunning man, the baker in town, Ansel. Ansel, of course, has to tease them. Ansel raised a brow at him. Is that right? Look here, Lucy, don't let him guilt trip you into going to the harvest festival with him just because he helped you out. You're new in town, which basically makes you a celebrity. A woman of your stature should arrive with someone more on your level. Like the best baker in town? I asked wryly. He put a hand over his chest as if in shock. Well, this is so sudden, but if you insist, All right, shove off. Noah grabbed the man by his shirt collar and pulled him out of the horse's path. She's got more important things on her mind than a pity date with you. Ansel merely rolled his eyes and waved after us as the horse resumed his pace. Let me know if you change your mind, or if you ever decide to take up baking. I could always use another pair of hands at the shop. Noah scratched the back of his head nervously. Sorry about him. I figured I'd at least get you to the clinic before the bachelors in town smelled blood in the water. It's fine. I don't mind, I laughed. Understatement of the year. After the day I'd had, if a bunch of hot men wanted to fawn over me, then I was here for it. So he takes her to the doctor's office and he tells her that after she is done, then she can just pick up a hotel key from the front desk lady and that he'll bring by something for her to eat later. The doctor is very quick, but also apparently stupidly good looking as well. She thanks him and says that she'll just call an Uber and be out of his hair, but immediately he says no, which actually ends up startling both of them, and he clarifies that the main road will also be closed due to the rock slide. When she leaves the clinic though, literally no one is around. It's suddenly a ghost town. Now, she's been chatting with the group chat, of course, about everything that's going on, and they're more than a little concerned. Because this town does not exist, according to the internets. She's still kind of, stuck though, so she makes her way to the Honey Bee Inn, hoping to at least get some shelter. Chapter 3, The One Who Waits. He is back near the well, and he's just going through all this media that has been left by the previous victims, I guess. He is trying to research what, might appeal to Lucy, looks-wise. He is not nervous per se, but he knows that Lucy is smart, and so that he really has to tread carefully in order to keep her happy right now, while he's courting her. While he's perusing some books, a creature known as Shriek makes himself known. Now, Shriek is a menace, known to humans as a trickster of sorts. He isn't supposed to feed in our narrator's woods, but it was a one-time thing that he allowed it, and now, Shriek is back. He does know about Lucy, though, so our narrator tells Shriek to take any of the campers that Lucy was with, but that he needs to keep his mitts off Lucy. Shriek asks if the campers left her as a sacrifice, perhaps, and while it does stroke his ego, our narrator confesses that no, she's not, but that she actually gave him something herself, an offering of sorts, and that is the coin that she tossed into the well. Shriek tells him to be careful, seems that his priestess is getting restless. The narrator then sends out a raven to check to see what on earth he means, and he finds that Lucy has skipped past the inn and is making her way further out of town. Hello? She called, hobbling about the empty streets, using a long stick as a cane. In my excitement, I'd failed to consider how easily she could move around with merely a sprained ankle. A smarter god would have broken her legs. If Shriek managed to guide her into his territory, getting her back would be damn near impossible. And that's only if he didn't decide to eat her right away. An acolyte was a boon to any god and a direct threat to surrounding competitors. I wouldn't put it past the jealous Ingrid to kill her just to deny me what's mine. While Lucy was on my mountain, Shriek wouldn't be able to touch her unless she or I invited him to do so. But if he lured her away... And the I gasped when he said that he should have broken her legs. Honestly, what a kind, benevolent god he is. Chapter 4, Lucy. So the reason that she was wandering out of town is because the inn was empty. She did actually check inside, and then when that was empty, she went and she checked all the other shops in the surrounding area that were also empty. Because her ankle is actually sprained, she ends up having to take a little rest near one of the candy shops, and she's really drawn to some flowers. Very, very pretty white flowers, and she reaches out to pluck one. I wouldn't do that, called a man's voice. I turned around to find the source, only to find it was coming from the woods. Is anybody there? I asked. Over here, the voice called. A tall, pale man dressed in fishing gear stepped from the trees and waved at me. So you're the petitioner rousing old thorns. I'm the what now? Look, I was on a hike, but I got caught up in a rock fall. I was looking for a place to stay at the bed and breakfast, but I couldn't find a soul there. The man laughed, his shaggy brown hair falling over his eyes. Then I suggest you count your lucky stars and make a run for it. The bastard won't be gone long. I'm sorry? He shook his head. These mountains are home to more than deer. Didn't anyone ever tell you to be careful what you wish for? A gullible thing like you is bound to be devoured in no time. There's cannibals out here? He walked closer, then seemed to stumble before he reached the sidewalk. Righting himself, he chuckled and beckoned me closer. Don't worry, you're going to be fine. There's still enough daylight left for you to get out of here before night falls. Take my hand, I'll guide you. A sense of unease settled in the air around me. I brought my hand to my chest, unsure if I should take his. I think I'll wait at the inn and find my own way back in the morning. Mirth bled from his features, and the once jovial, friendly eyes turned gaunt and hateful. Don't be daft. Whatever it is you wish for, that rotted thing won't grant it without a price. Now, unless you're dying to know how deep his thorns cut, he offered his hand again. Wish? I don't know what you're... Lucy! Dr. Crane roared. The doctor tells her that she, should have been resting, and then he picks her up against her will, of course. The stranger has since disappeared, and the doctor takes her back to the inn. At the inn, there is actually now an innkeeper. Her and the doctor have a fun little back and forth, at the end of which Lucy ends up with the deed to the inn. Very odd, and she agrees that it is very odd. She gets settled into a room, and her and the doctor almost kiss, but they're interrupted by Noah. He has brought her food, and she's like, okay, that's fine, let me get changed, and then I'll come downstairs. But what she does before that, obviously, she has to update the group chat. Lucy, I want to, but I should probably call Mark first and officially break up, right? Doesn't seem right to just send a text. Jess. Scarlett, just get her! Get her! The phone rang and I picked it up. Jess's voice bellowed so loud on the other end I had to hold it away from my ear. He left you on the side of the mountain! So skip the decorum and just shoot a text? That's not tacky? Maybe I'm rushing things and he and what's-her-face really are just friends. He deserves another chance if that's the case. Then she speaks Spanish that I'm just not gonna butcher. While Jess is on the phone, she does send the text and, that way she can be like, mission accomplished. But then she looks out the window and town is now packed with people. But she realizes there are only 3 types of beings that are there. Super hot men, old ladies, and puppy dogs. The fisherman's warning rang in my ears. I really hope it is Jess. For my own sanity, I'm just going with that answer. What else could it be? A manifestation of a wish I tossed in a well? A well you found in the wilderness? It was a well in the wilderness, yes. She paused for a long breath. I could slap you. Mean. And you ignored every ancestor's warning and just tossed a coin down a well. It wasn't a question. Fuck, I should have gone with the creepy fisherman. How about we stop following strange men into new places? Could we maybe give that a try? I squeezed my boob for comfort. I'm trapped in some kind of illusion, about to get eaten by cannibals, or I'm already dead and this is purgatory. I don't want to be dead. My ladies know what's up. But damn, I can't even get through it. That's so funny. She then tells her more about this weird man and the flower. Lucy, this is poison hemlock. Oh, is that what hemlock looks like? Everyone in town stopped to look at me. My body froze. I felt the phone slip through my fingers as Jess called my name. It landed on the carpet with a dull thud that felt more like thunder in the quiet stillness. Then, all at once, they asked, "Say it again?" The townfolk slowly stepped towards my window, as if in a trance. I screamed and curled up into a ball next to the bed. Footsteps pounded up the stairs, but I was far too busy crashing out to do a damn thing about that. I buried my face in my knees and rocked back and forth. Noah and Dr. Crane burst into the room and rushed towards me. I backed further against the wall and screamed to stay away. Both men fell to their knees on the floor. Eyes bleeding, they asked in unison, "Say it again." Say what? Chapter 5, Hemlock. So everyone comes running in and she's losing her mind. She throws a lamp at Noah and it just turns into vines, which of course further freaks her out. The townspeople all just keep talking in unison and she tells them that they need to stop that and that she only wants Dr. Crane to speak. Hemlock now has to put all of himself into this doctor, but it's a super tight fit. And so he adds some eagle wings to kind of offset that pain of being confined. She asks, because of the wings, is he an angel? And he says he can be whatever she needs him to be. He tells her that he is there to fulfill her wish, to not be alone, and calls her his priestess, which is more than a little off-putting, but really she's just happy they aren't there to eat her, and that she isn't dead. He has a smart mouth, is a little sassy, which does not help the current conversation. Ruling over a populace as a god and feasting on foolish travelers did not prepare you on how to properly soothe a potential mate. Why was dating so difficult? I wanted to grant your wish. She clutched her hands to her shirt, twisting the fabric up in a nervous ball, and shivered. To what end? Till the next one, and the one after that, and then more still. Stay here with me, and I'll spoil you so rotten you'll never want to leave. Why? Does someone need a reason to want you? She didn't answer. Either she didn't know, or this was one of those things humans simply knew without much fuss. As if to highlight the difference of our species, my essence pulsed against the flesh of my vessel so hard the skin split beneath my wings. I used the opening to fit another smaller pair of wings under the first, unfurling all 4 of them to better accommodate my being as I tried to come up with a suitable answer for my priestess. He says that the wish to simply be cherished is unique and who doesn't love some novelty. She asked if, this is his real form, and he says that it isn't, and that he's much too large to stay in this smaller form long term. Nervous giggle escaped her lips. Then her face broke into a wide smile before bellowing laughter spilled out. You don't care what form you take as long as it's big enough to fit you. I nodded. Lucy dotted the wetness from her eyes with her sleeve. Does that mean you could turn into something crazy, like a kraken shifter, if I asked? Releasing her hand, I backed away and released myself from the form of Dr. Crane. Lucy watched transfixed as my vines took new shape. 8 winding tentacles stretched along the room while I shaped the torso and face to still take on the rugged, symmetrical features she seemed to like. With so many extra appendages, this form suited my needs quite nicely. Once finished, I presented myself to her. "Is this still to your liking?" Her mouth fell open in shock. She looked away from me and brought a hand to her lips. Glancing back, she cleared her throat and asked, "Let's say I could get on board with this. Will I be trapped on this mountain forever, or could I still leave and come back?" The thought of her previous mate resting at the top of my mountain came to mind, and pestilent jealousy demanded I guide wolves to his encampment. Quelling my rage, I answered honestly, "I do not want you to leave, but I will not force you to stay." Catching my breath, Lucy stood and reached for me. The invitation for consensual touch had me falling into her before I could control myself. My arms slid around her back while all 8 tentacles greedily wound themselves over any part of her perfect body that they could reach. She stiffened at first before returning the gesture by taking as much as me as she could against her. "Is this body big enough for you?" "It's still a little cramped, but it's manageable. Unless you have another desire I could take shape of." She laughed against my chest, and it tasted better than blood ever could. "Let me snag the Kindle from my bag. I'm sure I could pick out a few more." That's hot. I'm not a monster fucker by any means. It's not my thing. But like, damn, dude. Chapter 6, Lucy. Let the record show that when Lucy Sawyer was presented with a gift from a literal god, I did not squander it. Hemlock kept my wrists pinned above my head with a tentacle, while 2 more wrapped around my ankles, keeping me spread eagle. There was a sound of rushing leaves, the smell of rain, before 2 more men appeared. A vampire with glowing red eyes and long black hair, and some skull-headed demon that belonged to the world's biggest hear-me-out cake. I was serious at the beginning. Any of my family members who have watched this far, leave immediately. So they started to have sex. It's obscene. Honestly, it's not terribly written in terms of smut. You know, I always thought if I ever got a chance like this, I'd balk at the massive cocks monster romances were known for. But they do say greed is a bottomless pit. May as well see if I was, too. My back arched, pushing more of my full breast against the tentacles teasing me. "There's 3 of you, aren't there? Why choose?" "I'll try to be gentle." Literally no one told you to do that. No, I will not be reading out any of the actual sex part. But reading this had me kicking my feet and giggling the whole time. They do the deed. It's decent. A little rush, but it's not bad. They finish and are all like cuddled up, and she finally has the foresight to answer her goddamn phone. She confirms to her friends that she is still alive. She then returns to the cuddle puddle, and she tells him that, they're okay. They're not going to come storming the little village quite yet. "So you'll stay then? I can shape this town into anything you like. Build houses more grand than you've ever seen, and worship your body every night." He took hold of my face, peppering it with soft kisses. "All I ask in return is that you stay. Save me from the loneliness of eons and share your warmth with me." My chest ached at his words. Despite being a hopeless romantic, I'd never been the type of woman men fall over themselves for. Every long-lasting relationship I'd been in only added to the belief that the type of love you'd see in those fairy tale romantic movies was just that. A fairy tale. With Mark, I'd even try pushing myself to get interested in his hobbies and give him more grace than any romantic partner should need, and still, I was always treated as an afterthought. Yet this demon, or god, or whatever Hemlock was ready to give me the world for nothing but my company in return. Hemlock barked out a laugh, and it might have been the purest emotion I'd seen yet. When it faded, my chest squeezed at the loss, and I made a vow there and then to do whatever was needed to bring it back. Anything to keep him happy and smiling. I was his priestess, after all. And that's the book. Honestly, I did actually like that more than most people, apparently, which is very rare for me. It is rated at just 2.8 stars with 22,000 ratings. I will say that I did think it was goofy, honestly, of course, but it didn't want to be taken seriously, and even our main character makes it clear that she's not taking herself seriously either. I will say that when I prefer my monster romances, or literally any romance book I read, to, not be toxic, and to be fair, this is far from the most toxic relationship I have ever read, but it does feel a little bit icky and manipulative because he didn't want to tell her anything until after she was already complacent. Also, Shriek and his warning, literally anything to do with Shriek didn't really matter. Maybe him potentially saving her life because of the hemlock, whatever, but I don't understand why he was there. I will say that honestly, I did expect a little bit more smut, maybe a little bit less plot, but I'm not mad at it. I do hate that this is my first 4-star read of the month. But you know what, I did genuinely find this fun. I was definitely giggling and kicking my feet and kind of maybe a little bit falling in love with Hemlock. This is not the only, I think that this is not the only monster fucker book that I have. I think it's another one that's super short. Beautiful Nightmares, I think. I don't know who that's by. That's on the list. So we'll get to that. But this was so fun. Obviously it doesn't take itself seriously. At least I didn't take it seriously. I thought that was fun, and I think you have to go into it not seriously. But yeah, would read again. I thought that was fine. It was actually decently well written. There was a little bit of like extra stuff that didn't need to be in it, but it didn't take away from my enjoyment of the rest of it. I think it was well written. I didn't find any glaring errors, grammatically, spelling, anything like that. So I wasn't mad at it. But no, it's not bad. The only other monster romance that I've read is I'm in Love with Mothman, which was very light on the smut, which was fine. It was a little iffy anyway when there was the smut. Not my favorite, but this was fun. I was definitely expecting more more of the whole plot. What plot? But no, I wasn't mad at it. I think the pacing was good. I definitely read something else by her. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. The smut was a little bit awkward at times and definitely a little bit rushed. But you know what? I'll take what I can get, honestly. But yeah, so that's Bookmas day 3. I have actually no idea what I'm gonna do for tomorrow. So it might be Silent Night. I think it's gonna be Silent Night by M.L. Phil Pitt, I think is how you say it. Yeah, I make no promises though. Maybe I'll get bored. Maybe I'll do Jollyland by Michelle Powers. I want to read something else by her to see if it was just like a one-off thing that I didn't love her writing, or I really want to see if any of her other books have such glaring errors, like the 2-3 words thing. It's just stuck in my head. I think I'm gonna have to read it for this series just as an excuse to read it. But yeah, like I said, I'm trying to get these outros a little bit shorter because I have such a bad problem about rambling, and my outros are end up like half the length of the video. So I appreciate you guys being here. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You have to let me know if you've ever read this one, and if you have any suggestions for monster romance or monster fucker books, because I'm new to this. So if you have any suggestions, let me know. And also, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, DM me on Instagram or email me. That's also fine. But yeah, so I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.